Welcome to Commander Central, episode 331, and today we're going to be taking a look at the next year in Magic from Wizards of the Coast, as well as the start of the Dominaria United previews. I'm Dana.
And I'm Max.
Max, how's it going today?
Pretty good. It's Friday. It's the end of the week. I'm ready for the week to be over.
Yeah, we're going to go to brewery tomorrow, I think, and have a few beers. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, and of course, we will eventually get you and Chris and I on the same page to record together again, hopefully in the next week or two. But yeah, it has just not worked out at all in like the last 3 weeks. I guess that's one advantage of doing a 3-person show is it's much easier to then, like, if one person can't make it, you can still do something versus like trying to record by yourself.
Right. The feeling of we're so far behind doesn't loom over us as it might other people.
How is your new deck brew process going?
It's going. I still have like 3 cards to cut before I go purchase all the cards, so I'll eventually get it down to 100.
Nice.
Or maybe I'll just buy all 103 and figure it out on the fly.
I have a deck I'm in the middle of putting together. Actually, I kind of have 2 because I turned my Kresh deck into the Minsk and Boo Timeless Heroes deck. Number one, I didn't have a Planeswalker Commander deck anyway, and I'm like, oh, that's... I kind of wanted one, and that is one that hasn't been super heavily built. It works well for a Fling deck. I didn't have a Gruul deck anyway because I wanted to take my Mina and Den deck apart, so like it just worked. There wasn't a ton to change, but there was a few things, so like I'm still a couple cards short of that, so it's not entirely together yet. I'm waiting for those to show up maybe next week. And then I put together a Livan Cultist of Tiamat deck with a Passionate Archaeologist background. That's probably going to replace my Anax deck, mono red, and I need to pick up a few cards for that too, and I'm still sculpting it. I had it down to 102, and I looked at it last night trying to make those last 2 cuts, and I'm at 111.
How?
Because I kept like thinking of things like, oh wait, that makes sense here. So I'm moving the wrong direction. So I'm hoping if I just really like maybe on Sunday afternoon spend some time with it, I can get it up to 118. That's
you know what? I really think you should just shoot for 200 and build 2 separate decks.
Yeah, that's the goal. Well, so actually what threw me off was so Passionate Archaeologist says, commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. In Livan, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, a creature gets +X+O till end of turn, where X is that spell's mana value. So the plan is, I'm running a ton of Impulse Draw in red. Gonna hopefully be casting a bunch of spells from out of exile, and I have a lot of like X damage spells. There's like an old one, Balduvian Rage. Target attacking creature gets +X+O till end of turn. So cast that from hopefully out of exile for like, X = 7, basically giving a creature +14, because it's buffing the creature, and Livan then buffs the creature based on the spell's mana value. And then Passionate Archaeologist also is going to deal an additional 7 damage or something, spell's mana value as well. So like I can, basically triple the damage off one of those buff spells. But you have to cast it from exile. The thing that I didn't bump on right away was things that cast from your graveyard. So like, exile this spell from your graveyard and copy it and then cast that copy. A lot of like the flashback kind of spells. I assumed those weren't being cast from exile because you were exiling the card, but you were just copying the spell. You're copying a spell. When you copy a spell that's in exile, that's casting from exile.
Oh no.
As long as you cast the spell. So like if it just says copy the spell, that doesn't do anything. But like if it says you may cast the copy, well, you're casting the spell from exile even if it is a copy. So I didn't realize that right away, and at some point I'm like, I should check. I'm fairly certain it doesn't work that way, but I'll hit Judge Chat up, and it does work that way. So then there was like another half dozen cards I'm like that are really good in the deck that I didn't think would be. So that's actually, it wasn't like just me randomly adding stuff. It was like, oh, this card is now really good that I didn't realize was really good. So
this game's too complicated. Game's too complicated.
It's a little complicated. So yeah, like Arcane Bombardment is an enchantment from Strixhaven. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, you exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard, and then you copy each card that was exiled with Arcane Bombardment, and you can cast any of those copies without paying their mana value. Because you're casting the copy from exile, it works, and I didn't think it did. So like I found a bunch of those. So anyway, that's what I'm in the midst of trying to prune down in that Livan deck.
Interesting.
But like this is what I enjoy doing too. That's
right.
Some folks don't enjoy brewing, and it's one of my favorite parts of Commander is like figuring that stuff out. So it's a good time. So yeah, we've been putting decks together. I got to play a little bit this week at the shop. Our buddy Dr. Mike is moving, so I've been trying to make sure I make it as many weeks as possible to get some games in with him. I think he has 2 weeks left he's going to play.
Okay.
So I'll be definitely there the next couple weeks trying to get some games in. And I had some pretty decent ones this week. Everything was pretty balanced. So yeah, I had some enjoyable pods. So if you out there in listener land want to reach out to us and tell us what any fun games you've played lately or any cool decks you're brewing, how'd you go about doing that, Max?
You can talk to us on Twitter at CMDR Central. You can also find us on Facebook, CMDR Central, and just Google CMDR Central and you will find a way to reach us.
You can also find us on patreon.com/CMDRCentral, where one of the Patreon tiers lets you join our Slack and talk with us and the community. And it is super active right now because of the show topic we're on today, talking about the next year in Magic and all the Dominaria United previews.
It is. It's very active. It's always fun to pop in there and see what everybody thinks about all these new cards and sets coming out.
All right, Max, so let's jump into this. We kind of did a little bit of this a couple weeks back where we talked about because they did kind of the preview of the next year. So we talked about that, but this is a much more in-depth look, and I think this stuff is all super interesting and exciting, and I wanted to delve into it a little bit because we had made a few predictions too, some of which were kind of right, some of which were not necessarily right. So stuff that isn't necessarily Commander related, but we will talk about. We already knew that there was going to be the Infinity set coming out, and the Universes Beyond Warhammer 40K. Those are going to be here, I think, in October, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's another, I'm going to call this a showcase for moving forward throughout the show. I think there's another showcase regarding the Warhammer stuff they said in September. And
Infinity has enough stuff that will be Commander related too, so that will be relevant for us in a way that usually that stuff wasn't. So yeah, there's those two things coming. They also talked about was it Dominaria Remastered?
Correct.
And we didn't get a ton of information. I don't even know if we got a release date for that, although we did get a preview of a Force of Will. So it's going to be a hopefully better version of that Innistrad black and white thing they did. Basically, it's going to be a set featuring cards that have shown up on any Dominaria set in the past. So it's going to be like a curated set, draftable, of cards from whatever sets in the past have been on Dominaria. So I'm assuming Dominaria United would count for that. Definitely the last Dominaria set. And, most of those sets from early in Magic's years. Plus, I think Time Spiral Block was there as well. So there's a ton of sets to choose from for stuff from Dominaria. So actually that would kind of fun. It's probably a good venue for reprints as well, which the game always needs. But we didn't get a date on that. So that at some point in the next 6 months, I'm guessing. Dominaria United was the first one, which we knew was coming in the fairly near future. We got some of the story stuff for that, previews from some cards, and maybe we'll talk about some cards later on at the end here. But that will be on us. Previews are already well underway, so we'll have that full set here, in 2 weeks, and people will be cracking packs shortly after that. We knew the name of the Brothers War too. That's the kind of the Christmas-ish, Thanksgiving-ish set that we'll get at the end of the year. We got a little more art that we hadn't seen, and we got a logo, and the set symbol is basically the Urza Saga gear kind of thing, but it's split.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, just seeing that art and seeing that, I'm really that's probably the set I'm most hyped for, although I'm really hyped for Dominaria United too, especially now that I've seen a lot of these cards. But this whole set and this whole block, it just has me super, super excited for the next upcoming year of Magic for sure. We got some really cool promo cards too. There was some, a Wall of Roots, a Wood Elves, and a Windfall were the three that we got previewed that are foil promo cards that will be available for pre-release events. Old border style as well, and those are dated. So Wall of Roots is from 96, Wood Elf 97, Windfall 98. So those have a date in them too. Those look awesome for promo cards for people that are chasing those kind of things. And then originally things after that point were kind of gray. We knew there were a couple sets coming, but we didn't know what they were. So the spring set, or at least winter set where we're at, the January-ish set, we knew this would be tied in with Dominaria United and the Brothers War, but we didn't have a name for it. It's Phyrexia All Will Be One, which is an awesome name for a set, I think.
Especially Phyrexians.
Yes. And there's some nice Elish Norn art. Yeah, that looks amazing. And then we got the spring set, the second quarter set of 2023 is called March of the Machines, with a very Marvel-esque
I was about to say, this feels like a Disney Plus Marvel show typeface.
Yeah, very much so. Some people haven't loved that, but whatever. I think it's fun. And there's some preview art of that as well, which is like an Elishnorn in the background and Teferi kind of in the foreground. I'm looking forward to it too. And then they talked about the March of the Machine, the Aftermath, which we had kind of speculated would be the Beerwee Commander set. They didn't say what that was, though, if that was an additional set or if it was the Commander decks or what that would be. I don't believe, did they?
I don't think they said specifically, but what I took it as is it's going to be kind of like a small set, kind of how we did
that was
Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt.
Yeah, I got the vibe that it wasn't the Commander decks like we had thought.
Right.
So it's going to be something else that's nestled. But like it comes out like 3 weeks after March of the Machine, so who knows?
Didn't Crimson Vow do that too, though? Like, wasn't Midnight Haunt I think at the end of September, and the other one was like 3 weeks later at the end of October?
I thought it was a little further apart than that, but maybe you're correct. So many sets. Like that was years ago. That was 4 or 5 years ago now. Feels like. And then actually, I was shocked. I thought that was going to be the end of the announcements, but they gave us what the next 2 sets are going to be next year. We got Wilds of Eldraine, which I was not expecting to go back to Eldraine so quickly, which is third quarter of 2023. So that's more of like fairy tale set. And they specifically said this is going to less deal with like the political
kingdom.
Like less of the kingdom stuff and more of like the actual out in the country kind of fairy tale stuff. And then last but not least was the Lost Caverns of Ixalan, which is the winter set of 2023. So back on Ixalan again, which I also was not thinking we would go to. I don't know why I thought we'd hit, Alara or something before we would hit Ixalan again.
Because that's what we want, Dana.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Ixalan. So I'm glad to go back there. But, and I think I'm getting like a real kind of Hollow Earth vibe from this, particularly because of the name, but from some of the art as well. So it's going to be real big, like Journey to the Center of the Earth style fantasy, I think, and very kind of a Mayan/Aztec art theme, which was present before as well, which is great. I dug Ixalan. I liked the vibe of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that again, but I was just not ready. I was not expecting to go Eldraine and then Ixalan next year.
Yeah, these were, as for the standard sets, these were the 2 that definitely surprised me. Like, It's only been 4 years since we've been to Eldraine, which is kind of a shorter time frame when you look at other year ranges it took to return to Plains. Like, the Ravnica sets are always about 6 years.
Right.
The Zendikar blocks were about 5 or 6 years apart. I actually was doing the math yesterday in a chat. But this being 4 years seems really odd, and I know a lot of people love Eldraine, but unlike you, Dana, these last 2 sets for Standard, I have no interest in.
Which ones? The Ixalan and the Eldraine
Ixalan and Eldraine, yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely less hyped than I am about this whole Dominaria Phyrexian storyline, which I'm super looking forward to. I actually didn't love Eldraine. I don't know why. In part because actually I think I didn't like the like castle family intrigue stuff. I just didn't care about any of the Kenrith family storyline with the twins and any of that stuff at all. My favorite part was the Lorwyn kind of vibe. Which is only half the set, so the fact that this one seemed to be more leaning into that, feeling like Lorwyn 2.0 a little bit, I'm much more into.
Yeah, for me it was the stories on each. Like I'm not Eldraine to me feels like we're going to Shrek the movie in Magic.
I mean, sure, a little bit for sure.
And then I think Ixalan for me, just because the first time around was always centered around our favorite poster boy Jace. So maybe I'll like Ixalan a little better this time because hopefully Jace isn't in the picture, but I'm ready to be proven wrong.
He's back on Phyrexia, completed.
He's completed, yep.
Okay, so that's what we got. I guess there was a few other things too at some point in the next, so 2023 is when we will get the Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth set. That's a full expansion. They didn't give us a date on that yet either. They just said it would be in 2023. We did get a bunch of art previews though. Some of those were fantastic. It doesn't seem to be taking anything from the movies, or basically any existing Tolkien art. It's all basically relatively new takes on everything. Looks real cool. I mean, if you were fine with D&D, there's just no difference in the Lord of the Rings for the most part. Like the vibe is the same. One of the things nice about D&D is it kind of meshed really seamlessly into what we're used to from Magic in terms of like art and just the kind of vibe of fantasy. Lord of the Rings was the same thing. So like if you were fine with D&D, that's not going to bug you. You aren't a big Lord of the Rings fan though, are you, Max?
I am not. I believe, to quote myself in our community yesterday, I said, I was, giving updates about the showcase. I'm like, oh, Lord of the Rings is modern legal, comes out in 2023, and there's going to be an alchemy set. And someone was like, didn't we know it was going to be modern legal already? I said, to be honest, I totally forgot this was a thing until today, so this is news to me.
I did not know it was going to be modern legal.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of cool, too. But yeah, no, I had no idea.
Yeah, you are correct. Lord of the Rings is not my fancy. Granted, this is being based off the books more than the movie, so yeah. I'm a little more in tune to give it a chance. I more don't like the movies just because I'm not a fan of them.
Right.
But for me, this is another cool for the people that want it and love it, and I know people are going to love it, but not for me.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Ryan Paneff of Commander Cookout. Did Wizards steal your idea about the giant picture frame of artwork? Because Ryan,
that's in there, yeah.
Yeah, they displayed that. There will be, in what I think they called them, seamless full art cards or something like that. So there's a very vague frame within the art, but when you line all these 18 cards up together, you get a giant battle scene of artwork together. And Ryan Paneff does that with a bunch of his altars, where like I have all my basic lands in Jamocha, make a giant picture, and I feel like they might have snagged that from Ryan.
Hope see if he's getting paid for that. Yeah, because you have actually a series of lands he did that way.
Yep.
In your Jamocha deck, yeah.
Correct.
There's more Universes Beyond coming. I think actually they're going to give a bunch more or some more drops next week too. They just hinted at a few of those. Obviously the Warhammer one. And there's also more Secret Lair stuff coming. We got a few previews of those as well. Some actually kind of cool looking Soul Rings. So if you don't have a neat looking Soul Ring for your deck, there's some Soul Ring stuff there. We're getting a Universes Beyond Doctor Who, it looks like.
Commander decks.
Yeah, doesn't do anything for me, but
Same.
Hey, if you're into that, good for you. And there's a big August super drop Secret Lair we're going to get, August 22nd.
Yeah.
And we don't know anything about what's in there, but super drop usually means like 5 or 6 different Secret Lair options. So they'll probably wind up being one of them at least that I'm like, oh, I want this card in foil. So we'll see.
I think one of the Dominaria United ones is in the August super drop.
I believe so, yeah.
You order them and you won't get these till January. So.
Yeah. So that's the kind of high level stuff from the next year or so. That's a lot of product, but I mean, we're not saying anything new. That's what's been going on for the last, 2 years ish, where there's just something every month, basically, in addition to, and that was just like
standard
sets, right? They didn't even touch on if there's going to be any kind of a master set next year, if we're going to get, spell books or the Commander Collection, color, which I would almost guarantee we'll get again. So yeah, this is just the way it is. Like we can constantly reference the deluge of content, but this is what it's going to be moving forward. I think clearly this is not something they're pulling back on at all.
Right. I definitely see like the Lord of the Rings, and you're right, we didn't mention any master sets or anything, but I would not be surprised if the Lord of the Rings set takes up what would have been like
the master set slot.
No, I don't think it's going to take the master set slot up. I think it's going to take up like the Commander Legends slot or your Battle Bond slot or something like that, because master sets sell. Like you don't, when you can sell collector boxes for $400.
Right, yeah.
With 4 packs in them, like you don't get rid of those.
What I'd be curious to see is how people are dealing, particularly among our listeners, are dealing with this influx of product. Maybe it doesn't bother you. Maybe you're like, give me more. I don't entirely know how I feel about it right now. I do enjoy getting new cards. That's fantastic. But it also feels like there isn't a lot of time to breathe. And I definitely have cards that I've put in decks that I have not even seen yet from 2 expansions ago.
And how many of those have you contemplated taking out because you haven't seen them when you want to try something new?
So like an example, the new Shieldred was previewed, and maybe we'll talk about it later on. That would be a great fit for my Glissa deck. So I'm like I was just quick looking over it. I wasn't like already ready to make changes, but I was just scanning my list of like, what creature would I pull out? I'm like, oh, Body Launderer. I'm like, hasn't done anything for me yet, but I'm like, have I drawn it yet? And that was from New Capenna, which was, I don't know,
spring of this
5 sets ago. But it wasn't that long ago, but like I guess there's only one real set between Capenna and now. But I haven't drawn it yet. And by the time Dominaria United rolls around, and am I going to want to pull that out? It's a card that I have not drawn yet and got a chance to play yet. That seems silly. I have a Ghost Shatai of Hidden Cruelties in that deck that I've gotten out once that played really, really well, but I've only seen it once. Like maybe that was luck that it played well, and it would be garbage if I got 4 more reps on it, but like I just haven't seen it. So that's the weird thing for me in terms of like card evaluation. And it's tough to keep up too. Like even if you're only buying singles, and I very rarely buy boxes anymore, even if you're only buying singles, well, it's pretty easy to still spend $100 on singles if you've got 10 decks.
Right, and especially if you want to update them right away, you're paying probably a little bit of a premium price because the card is new and was spec'd on. So like, where if I choose to buy singles, I might wait a little bit just because of like, maybe I'll get lucky and it'll go down in price. Sure. Maybe I'll get lucky and it won't, or not lucky and it won't go down in price. But, it's to each their own, I think.
But like, hey, you say you wanted to add a bunch of the channel lands from Kamigawa to your decks. Well, that's going to set you back a good amount of money, and those can go in a ton of decks. Same with, the MDFC lands we got last year, or say you wanted to add some of the new Triomes from New Capenna. None of those are cheap. The lands from last fall's Innistrad sets are not terribly cheap. They're, not like $20, but they're in the $8 to $10-ish range because they're seeing a ton of play in Standard. That stuff just does add up, and that's just like mostly the lands I'm talking about, let alone, any other great cards you want. Hey, what if I want the, ancient brass dragon or something from from the Forgotten Realms or Baldur's Gate. Yeah. Or like Gnawbones, Gnawbones is a super expensive card.
Yes,
a lot of the stuff just gets pricey. And it's one thing if you had like, when we were talking 4 sets a year, but at 8 or 10, there's challenges for sure. And there's advantages. So I'm torn about how I feel about it, but it is a new normal. So I'm not really complaining because it is what it is. You just got to find your own way to kind of deal with it and work your way around it, I guess, and navigate the sheer deluge of product we're dealing with right now.
Right.
Okay, so beyond that, we have started getting some Dominaria United spoilers. And first of all, let's talk about Dominaria United. We have the typical set boosters we're going to get. There's also Jumpstart packs. There's, I think, 5 different Jumpstart decks. Or no, 10. 2 for each color. And there's some new cards that are in Jumpstart as well as, reprints and some Dom United stuff. So we got that basic breakdown there. Plus, there's going to be the box toppers that we talked about before, that are the new versions of the kind of bad vanilla Legends we had in the original Legends set. So with that basic breakdown, we also got to get our first real preview of the first 2, or of the 2 commander decks that do come with this set. One is the 5-color Gerard Carthalion deck, and then one is Giada. I forget what her last name is.
Binder of Wills.
Yeah. And that's I think 3-color deck.
Mardu, yep.
So those both look pretty interesting, and they've done a really good job in the last year or so with the commander decks that are tied to each set being pretty well put together.
Dana.
Yes.
You know what I'm super excited about these decks?
What?
One of the cards says the word Kavu on it.
Yes, I was wondering about that. That's like your favorite creature type. That's what Gerard Carthalion, he makes a Kavu token, doesn't he?
Yep. I was talking to a buddy last night, and I said, I don't think we're going to get new Kavus in the deck, but there's like 12 of them. Like, there's like 6 good ones. Reprint the 6 good ones and put all the like tribal cards in there. Put a Vanquisher's banner in there. We'll be fine.
Yeah. Are you going to try to build that, do you think?
No. God, no.
Just 5 colors is just too much?
Unless we somehow get a bunch of new Kavu.
Sure,
coming out between United and probably Brothers War. Maybe, but I don't foresee that right now.
I don't love 5-color decks either, definitely. And I can see how you tend to build 2 colors as well.
Right.
All right, so we've talked about all that stuff. We probably won't do a full preview set about Dominaria United, although maybe we will. Who knows? We've not decided that yet, I guess. Nothing's official. But we've gotten probably like 30 to 40 cards that have been previewed as well.
Yep.
First of all, let's talk about stuff that isn't terribly exciting in terms of like new stuff for decks, which is the Pain Lands all got a reprint, or at least 6 of the Pain Lands got a reprint in Dom United, and we will get the other 4. They said this calendar year, which means in the Brothers War set. I would assume anyway. It's going to be in a standard set this calendar year, which basically means the Brothers War. So 6 in this set, 4 there. New art on all of them. There's new art for the just regular, set card that has a normal frame, and there's like a borderless version as well with different art in the borderless ones. And they look amazing. Particularly the borderless ones.
Yeah, the borderless ones are gorgeous, like that Adhikar waste, just being that big ice. I'm assuming it's like a glacier, or maybe they're like mountains coming out of the water, but that looks gorgeous. The callback to the devil on Sulphurous Springs is great.
Taking the hot springs bath is amazing.
Yeah, these were, we did talk about that on our show, that we thought maybe the Pain Lands will come back. Yep. So I was sad to see them, but at the same time, you know what? They work, and they are,
Yes.
some are getting pricey,
Exactly.
so I understand why they are putting them in here.
And I understand the point that I think Gavin made the comment that like a lot of these are difficult to put in other sets too. Kolios is like clearly very tied to Dominaria United.
Yeah.
Which is also why I think it's so weird that they made the Triomes in New Capenna tied to New Capenna and versus giving them a normal generic name. Number one, so the cycle is all called Triomes, but number two, you're now locked into those only being...
Because it's Xander's Lair
Exactly.
or whatever, yeah.
Or I guess you could, I mean, they can go to Master Set too or something. Like I think maybe that's different, but yeah, I thought that was kind of something they should have learned from in the past, but maybe there's a plan there, who knows. And we got a preview of the showcase frame, art on a lot of these too, which is kind of a stained glass window version of the cards, most of which look gorgeous as well.
Yeah.
The last couple showcases we've gotten have been like, oh, that's neat, but it's, I just thought they were fine. I really do like these. The stained glass showcases do look fantastic. And frankly, all of the art on the box topper commander cards looks gorgeous too, I think. I don't know what they've been doing, if it's the artists are allowed to do more, or they've changed the printing process, or they've just allowed them to use brighter, bolder colors, but like in general, the art really, really pops and is super colorful. And I don't know if maybe the artists are being given cues now, like, hey, this is a black red commander, so it's going to have a black red frame. So try to match the art. Because it definitely feels that way. I feel like in a lot of ways, the art on the cards is matching the frame in a way that it didn't used to, and it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, I guess I've never thought about that, about how much information an artist gets to know when they do the art.
Yeah, and maybe they always did, but like I just think all of these really, really pop. So beyond talking about the art, are there any of these cards, Max, that we've gotten previewed so far that you just think are interesting or like or would want to brew?
Well, first I want to get the big one out of the way, that Liliana the Veil is being reprinted in a standard set.
That's insane. I would never have thought they would do that.
Neither had I, and maybe this is a cool thing moving forward, that we will get these higher priced reprints in standard sets versus waiting for that Masters set that might have it every other year.
Because if you remember, they almost did it. I want to say in 2015, there was the Lorwyn 5 Planeswalkers, and they wound up reprinting Liliana Vess.
At the very last minute.
At the last minute, because they were afraid of what Liliana the Veil would do to standard. So, like, clearly they're not at least as afraid of that as they once were. Because
that was right during Mono Black Devotion, or right...
Is that what that was?
Before?
Okay, that would make sense. Yeah, because that was dominating. They didn't want to give it one more super strong tool. Sure, that would make sense. But regardless, yeah, getting that back in standard is pretty huge.
Yeah. But for building around stuff, nothing has really caught me yet. I know these are still flooding in.
Yeah. I guarantee we'll finish recording the show and I'll go check and there'll be 3 new spoilers of things that are interesting.
Yeah. I do think the Astor Bearer of the Blade, so he was previewed today by Wizards of the Coast. He's a Boros legendary warrior. He's 4 mana for a 4/4. When he ETBs, you look at the top 7 of your library and reveal an equipment or vehicle card from them and put them into your hand and put the rest on the bottom. But then he also has 2 static abilities of equipment you control have equip for 1, and vehicles you control have crew for 1. So I think this is kind of a cool balance between like a Dapala and an Akiri.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually been kind of impressed so far with most of the ones we've seen that feel like, oh, that's kind of specific. It's not like generically broken, but it's also kind of powerful. And I don't know, I've just enjoyed almost all of the ones we've seen, even if I have no desire to brew them. Zur Eternal Schemer, new version of Zur. Same color as Zur always was. 3 mana in Esper colors. Enchantment creatures you control have Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. And then you can turn a target non-aura enchantment you control into an enchantment creature with base power and toughness equal to its mana value. So you're being encouraged to run non-aura enchantments in that deck, or enchantment creatures and then basically beat people with like animated enchantments, kind of, all of which get buffed and get Death Touch, Lifelink, and Hexproof. That's probably a really strong deck, I feel like, particularly that every one of those enchantment creatures is unable to be interacted with because they have Hexproof. They're going to gain you a ton of life and Death Touch. That seems super, super strong, but it's also a thing that nothing else is really doing. Like, even that Zur commander that I feel like is going to be a pain in the butt to play against, at least it's doing a unique thing. And I,
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that a lot of these seem like somebody really thought about what they're going to do with them. That the new Joyride is really, really strong. Joyride Aegis Innovator, 2 mana for a 2/3 is it again, and you can tap her to put 2 Ingenuity counters on her, and then you may put an artifact card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield where X is the number of Ingenuity counters on her. So the first time you use her, you can drop an Arcane Signet or something because that's 2 mana. Next time you use her, you can put something that's 4 or less, then 6, then 8, whatever. People will probably definitely try to find ways to roll up those counters using proliferate kind of effects. That's one more deck where everyone will want the Ozolith, I would imagine. But again, nothing's really doing that thing, particularly in those colors. That's kind of a unique effect. And yes, there's things that tutor artifacts out, but in this case, it's just from your hand, and you are probably going to be you're going to have to run a certain amount of draw. If you want to cheat up those counters, you have to have a certain amount of proliferate effects or whatever. That deck is just, I feel like you're going to have to do something interesting in your build, and your build might not look like somebody else's. And I do appreciate a lot when commanders are interesting and open-ended like that, and I think almost all of the ones we've seen have been that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of them bringing back all these characters, and we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Like, it's Dominaria. We're going to see a bunch of cool people. Like, the new Braids is pretty cool.
Yeah.
3 mana, and then at your end step, sacrifice essentially any type of permanent. And if you do, each opponent sacrifices a permanent that shares a card type with it, and then for everyone who doesn't, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being somewhat competitive at 3 mana. That's a Jeweled Lotus turn 1 Braids, and then you sack a land. If you're player 4, everybody's back at 0 lands.
It's a Braids effect that isn't as oppressive as original Braids, but still calls back to it.
Right.
Zira, the Golden Sting was the one previewed this morning. Zira Arian was the Jund commander, and I think you just spent Jund and you could tap her to draw a card. That's really all she did.
She's the bug, right?
Yeah. Bug dressed as a person. The one previewed this morning, the Golden Sting one, is Jund in 1, so 4 mana for 3/3 with flying and haste. Whenever Zira the Golden Sting attacks, put an egg counter on another target creature without an egg counter on it. And when that creature dies, if it had an egg counter on it, draw a card and create a 1/1 black insect creature token with flying. So drawing a card is calling back to the original. Insect dressed as a person in the art again, looks similar. And they found a way to make that card draw thing kind of logical. Oh, when she attacks, puts an egg onto a creature. When a creature dies, it hatches. You draw your card, you get the insect token. It totally makes sense in terms of the character. It ties back into the old one. And again, it's an interesting, unique effect. Okay, you're going to make insects and you're going to get the card draw off them, but you have to have a way to kill stuff. And so how am I going to kill these creatures after I put the tokens on them? What am I going to do with these insects I created? Am I going to make this a stacks deck? Am I going to use them for creature beats? Do I want a Beastmaster Ascension kind of effect in here, or overruns to, when I get enough of these insect tokens, blow people out with the go wide effect? But those all require a bunch of choices. You have to have enough removal to proc those insects and proc that draw. You have to have enough ways to maybe buff those insects up. So you're going to have to make some decisions about how you want to brew that deck, and your decisions are going to maybe look different than somebody else's. I think it's a great design, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how people brew that. And again, to keep repeating myself, that's how I felt about a bunch of these that I've seen. They've all felt like just really interesting designs.
Yeah. What I really like about Zira is it's any creature. When I was reading the card, while you were reading the card, I was expecting to hear, put the egg counter on a non-token creature. It's I can put it on anything, including herself,
right? Yeah,
the insect you already have out there. It's kind of a Rube Goldberg machine if you wanted to.
Yeah, we got that one of the old commanders, one of the old legends was an archer, and the new version of her buffs archers and is encouraging you to build archer tribal, which I don't think anything else is cared about. That's not going to be a great deck, but it's going to be a deck somebody's oh, I've always wanted to brew that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And, the rumors, if people were paying attention to Reddit, are true. Ajani is the next completed Planeswalker. Mm-hmm. That was shown at the very end of the showcase as just a quick little 15-second teaser with the card art. So Ajani Sleeper Agent is 1 green hybrid Selesnya and white for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. He is completed, so you can pay Phyrexian mana or green or white or the 2 life to cast it. The +1 ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your library. The -3 is distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among up to 3 target creatures. They gain vigilance until end of turn. And the -6 is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. That's a heck of a ultimate for a planeswalker commander deck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people were upset about the Ajani thing. It sucks having a character you like, have bad things happen to them, I guess. But it also, I feel like it gives the story stakes, which is one of the things we had talked about a little bit a couple weeks ago. And the Gideon thing didn't feel like it had stakes to me to a degree because we knew he was dying. It was telegraphed so far out, and the only other characters that we had to deal with losing were ones that nobody really cared about, like Dovin or who was the brat kid planeswalker, the Gruul one.
Jace. Oh, Domri.
Domri Raid. Good guess. That was funny.
I heard Brat and Planeswalker.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, oh, Jace. Okay.
Whereas Johnny's a big deal. That people weren't ready for that. Weren't expecting that. And he was a character a lot of people liked. That's a big deal. And I understand why people are upset, but also it makes everything feel real. I appreciate that. Another one I thought was cool was Ramsey Assassin Lord. Ramsey's Overdark was, one of those bad legends back in the day that had a tap to destroy target enchanted creature ability, and he was an assassin. The new version is an assassin with Death Touch, buffs other assassins you control by +1/+1, and whenever a player loses the game, if they were attacked by an assassin you control this turn, you win the game. So if you kill one person with an assassin, or at least on a turn when you hit them with an assassin, you kill everybody. That's super cool. Again, nothing else is like that. And not only is nothing else like that in a way that's asking you to run a bunch of assassins. So
yeah, that is super cool. And there are 69 legal assassin type cards in Commander.
Nice.
You have a pick of a litter there. It's not like Kavu where you only have 4.
Right. Yeah, this feels like they just went all out in obviously there's a small window you have to design cards. These people are constantly working, but I do really wonder, given how unique and interesting all of these designs are for these legends, if it wasn't a situation where 2 years ago they're like, this, we're gonna do this down the road, what would your dream version of Ramsey's Overdark look like? And they gave it to somebody and said, just think about it. We're on no timetable, but I want you to come back in 6 months and then so you're in no rush, and you can just think about it and put together the perfect version of Ramsey's Overdark and put together the perfect version of Zira Arian. And that's what these all feel like. They all feel like somebody absolutely took their time and really crafted something that was meaningful and felt interesting to them in a way that we maybe get 3 legends every set that feel that way, and we're going to get 30 of them this time.
Right. I definitely think these were in the office it was pick your top 3 favorite old school legends, and then we'll distribute amongst everybody, and then you're giving it to the person who's going to care the most to make a good card.
And figure how to make it cool and interesting and fun. Yeah. So, we could just keep talking about individual cards because there's a ton of cool ones, but by the time the show airs on Monday, there'll be 30 more that have been released. So, I said I didn't know if we were going to do a review set. We probably will wind up doing one because there's just going to be so many fun cards we want to talk about down the road. So we might wind up talking about Dominaria United for the next 3 weeks. Who knows? One final thing I did want to talk about is there was one piece of art that was kind of released that showed Chandra fighting, and it was indicated that was going to be for that War of the Machine set. But if you look closely in the background of that piece of art, there's a bunch of non-Planeswalker characters that we know from other planes, which is implying that there's at some point a way to bring over people into, whether it's New Phyrexia or Dominaria or wherever, to join in this fight that aren't just from Dominaria. And one of the things that they were talking about is at the end of this, the multiverse will be changed forever, which I guess is the kind of hype you hear sometimes
from Endgame.
But in this case, this is a big storyline, and does that mean we are now going to see a change? They've done it before. That's what Time Spiral did. Is this the equivalent of Time Spiral where the rules are now changing in terms of travel, and we now are going to have the ability to see characters that aren't Planeswalkers move between planes? Which is, I get how that's a pretty big shakeup, but that opens up a ton of really interesting possibilities as well.
Do you, by chance, remember what happened to the Planar Bridge that Tezzeret stole?
So the Planar Bridge is part of Tezzeret. It's not.
That's right. It's part of him now, and he's completed.
He is not completed. He is. Matter of fact, I believe last I saw, not entirely on board with the Phyrexians.
Okay.
Which is why they've had to come up with their own plan. Which was going to Kaldheim and the World Tree, taking part of that and doing that kind of stuff. So, although I think they use his planar bridge to toss Vorinclex through, basically.
Right.
But my guess is the planar bridge is going to wind up being what gets used
to bring the good guys.
Yeah, Tezzret's going to reluctantly have to wind up
Doctor Strange and everybody. In.
Yep, basically, yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah. And then does that become because I think Saheeli, is it Saheeli?
The Artificer, yeah.
Yeah, whether that technology then gets pushed to other planes and we suddenly see a lot more overlap, I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess something like that is what's going to happen. And I'm still wondering if we don't see Bolas at the end as well.
And Jace. We haven't heard from him in a while, unfortunately.
Which I'm okay with, right?
Yeah. I really hope this isn't just a giant rickroll and this is just someone looking in a vision glass all the way back from alliances. Yeah. It's like, okay, and this is the next 80 years of the universe.
I think I actually, now I did say I haven't been buying boxes much anymore. I actually might wind up buying a Dominaria box for the first time in forever.
I think the last box I bought was the last Dominaria set.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually might get one.
Well, you might get those legend cards, Dana.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun.
Another moat.
Right, there we go.
A warehouse full of cards.
Yeah, we talked about that, I guess, last time, but yeah, that's the thing. That's another reason. That's not a reason to buy the cards, but it's a nice little bonus treat that you might wind up cracking something cool from Legends in there as well. So
I saw a meme on Twitter or Facebook yesterday. It was how much money in euros a current pack of Legends is.
Oh, jeez.
And it said, and this is so for 629 euros, you could get a single pack of Legends, or you would have to buy 33 boxes of collector boosters for the chance to pull 15 Legends cards.
Right.
And it's way more money.
Yeah. Funny how that works. All right. Well, hey, hopefully somebody out there listening right now will open something cool.
Heck yeah.
All right. That is going to wrap up this episode of Commander Central. We'll be back next week. I'm Dana. You can find me on the Twitter birds at Dana Roach. You can find Max at CMDRCentral_Max. And you can find Chris at WiseSquishy1. The show is edited by Rafael Garcia. And you can find him on the Twitter birds at Ursa Bearwalker. And our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod. Licensed in of Creative Commons. Until next week, I'm Dana.
And I'm Max.